What's going on, nerds? Welcome back to Comic Book Nerd Nation, episode 137. I'm Fox2. We got Topher.
Oh, I'm not pirate. I don't go first.
And the whole effing Brian.
I still go last.
Yeah, Pirate's camping with his nephew this weekend, I think.
Hunting for Bigfoot.
That is not a euphemism.
Hunting for the Sasquatch.
I hope he's finding those forest Pokemon type.
Right.
We'll get into that for sure. Yeah, so I'm not going to say tons of news, but there's a fair amount of things that we can talk about this week. Some of it more exciting than others. We'll start out a little easy. Batman Killing Joke. We've talked about it in the past. The animated one-night theatrical screening was coming out to like 200 or 300 theaters nationwide or worldwide, maybe. I'm not sure if it was a worldwide thing or not. Apparently, the popularity and the ticket sales for this were so overwhelming that they actually increased the number of theaters to 1,000 theaters nationwide. Is now setting the record for a one-night screening.
Damn, I didn't even know they were doing that.
It's coming up July 25th, I think. There should be plenty of tickets available because just within the last, I want to say week, they over tripled the number of screens that it would be on. So it's apparently there's quite a contingent of us nerds out there that want to see this in the theaters. I'm not going to go see it in the theaters, but this is definitely something that I'm going to pick up. Probably the Blu-ray just to get all the extra content and stuff for my own personal collection because I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Is this something you guys are going to go and see, or have you thought about going to see it? Or
I'm probably just going to pick it up, watch it in the comfort of my own home.
Fair enough.
I agree. I want all the extra content too.
Yeah, by the time it sucks, but by the time you go to the movie theater, pay the ticket price, get some popcorn, a pop, maybe a snack or something like that. Or if you're going with, like in my case, my fiance, we'll go together, we'll get dinner beforehand, or Topher, you and your girlfriend, you probably get dinner beforehand, and then you get, maybe some snacks or some drinks or something like that for the movie. It's $50, $60, $70 to go out to do a movie night. Whereas you stay home, grill a couple steaks, have a couple ice cold beers, and watch the movie and keep the movie for well under that price. It's it's really expensive anymore to go out and see movies.
See, and the problem with all that is I cut off Topher again.
That's all right.
But you go to the movie, you go out to dinner before, or you have snacks during, then you gotta fucking pee. You gotta hustle to the bathroom and hustle back so you don't miss anything cool. For something like that, it's just easier to get the DVD because you can just pause it and fucking empty your bowels, empty your fucking bladder, and come back. It's just easy.
Yeah.
If you don't have to do it, you don't have to do it. Like big movies like Star Wars or Civil War, I won't have a snack. I won't pee because I hold it in for 2 hours. Come home a day later, I have a urinary tract infection for holding it in because I didn't want to miss anything. It's much easier, much healthier just to get the Blu-ray.
I don't know.
How do you follow that up, Topher?
By the way we normally follow up Brian's statements, by just kind of pretending they didn't happen and just talking normally. I've always enjoyed the experience of seeing movies on the big screen. I certainly have a bunch of Blu-rays and DVDs, and there are some movies that I wait to watch, but man, I know some people that the second one of these new comic book movies is out, they're like, oh yeah, I've already seen it. How did you see it? It was just released today, and you've been at work all day, and they're like, oh, I downloaded it last night. what? It's like some fucking handy
Pirate.
cam, you know, like some dude like slouched down in the theater like with this shaky ass handy cam that keeps like looking at his lap anytime somebody walks past, and like you can't hear shit, and then they start critiquing like the special effects in the movie and shit. It's like, you watched it on a fucking handy cam, you know? Like I never understood, like, why would you want that to be the first way that you experience a movie?
Yeah.
Like, for me, the first experience of a movie is like, I don't know, like that's what I really remember it by. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna keep like rewatchability of a movie is a big thing for me, but you know, that first experience, you only get that once, you know, and like, why would you want it ruined with a fucking handy cam, you know? So like, I like the big screen experience. And yeah, I mean, it can be expensive, but you know, if you're smart about it, it doesn't have to be freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Most theaters these days don't like bother checking you for shit. You know, like you can grab a couple of snacks at the grocery store that, you know, for a reasonable price and smuggle them in your girlfriend's purse. And if you don't like drink a dick ton beforehand, then like I pretty much never have to get up in the middle of a movie to go pee.
My biggest problem is now the theater that they built just down the street. You know the one I'm talking about. It's just not far from where I live, but it fucking, you can get a pitcher of beer to go with you into the goddamn theater. And so then it's like, well, shit, I got a recliner and I can get a fucking like pitcher of draft beer to like, and damn, like, okay, I would, if I was watching this movie at home, I would probably have a fucking the equivalent of a pitcher of beer throughout the movie to like just, you know, relax and enjoy it. Like, okay, cool. Like, well, then you're gonna fucking piss. Believe me, you're gonna have to pee. But no, I 100% agree with you. There's certain movies that I definitely enjoy the theatrical, like Star Wars. There was no way that I wasn't going to see that in the theater.
And I get the whole, you know, like yeah, theaters have like, you know, beers you can take in now and all this stuff, like, and that's a way to do it, but I don't know, like for me, like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get drunk at a movie, you know, like if I go see one, because for me it's about the experience of watching the movie, and like I don't want to be distracted by sitting there, you know, throwing back 6 beers while I'm, you know, over the course of the movie, while that's perfectly fine to do at home, you know, like when I can rewatch it whenever I want, like the in theater experience, like I'm there for that. I'm not there for the, you know, the fucking $10 popcorn and the, you know, and the beers during the show. And while ticket prices aren't cheap, you know, like you're spending close to $15 nowadays, you know, depending on where you're at, like, it's still like if I were to go out to a bar and just hang out with a couple people for a few, you know, like for 2 hours, however long the movie lasts,
it's expensive as hell.
Like beers, especially if you're drinking craft shit, which I normally do these days, you know, like you're paying $7.50 plus for a damn pint these days. You know, like you go to TGI Fridays and buy a pint of beer, they charge you $7.50. You know, it's like, holy shit. You know, like if I drink 2 of those in 2 hours, which at least that, then I've already spent more than the amount of a movie ticket, and I was less entertained.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, yeah, I guess it's all perspective and how you think of it and things like that.
How your experience usually is.
Yeah, that's, and for me, I enjoy getting the DVD or the Blu-ray and having it here to watch a second time later, or watch half now if I have time. For me, that's a big part of it is, you know, the last 6 to 8 months or whatever, I've been really busy with other stuff. So sitting down and watching an entire movie from start to finish is even challenging. So like, I haven't really watched very many movies. We've kind of been rewatching old like Big Bang Theory episodes. Why? Because they're like 25 minutes, so you can like watch part of it. You know what I mean? Like you put it on, watch it. It's 25 minutes. You go do something, come back. Like, you don't have to interrupt, like, to watch an entire movie, we're like, pausing it for long, extended periods, like, 2-3 times into the movie. It really, some movies, that's okay. If you've seen it 7-8 times, you know, I go back and watch the Harry Potters like that, or the Lord of the Rings trilogy like that, and it wouldn't kill it for me, because I've seen them so much, I can literally, within 5 seconds of hitting the play button, I know exactly where I left off and like what happened, what the dialogue was just said, like all that stuff, because I've seen them so many times. But if it's something that I haven't seen very often, I want to kind of try and watch it in longer stretches. And I get what you're saying, like the enjoyment factor of just kind of like, this is the only thing that's going on right now is this movie. Like, there's not, like, I don't have to worry about my cell phone. I don't have to worry about this, that, the dog, whatever. Like, there is something kind of magical about seeing it on the big screen in that environment with the loud, the loud volume of all of it and everything.
It's an immersive experience that you don't get something similar, in other places.
No, it really takes a lot to get that same feeling at home. It would be very expensive to build something like that.
But to your point, I've seen some shitty movies in the theaters, and I'm like, God damn it, walking out, I wasted fucking how much money on this shit?
Yeah, been down that road.
It happens.
Star Wars Rogue One. That's what I'm trying to say. The new trailer will be revealed on July 15th on ABC as a part of their hour-long special called Secrets of the Force Awakens: A Cinematic Journey. Sounds cool.
Oh,
I don't have cable, and I don't know that I get ABC, but I'm going to try to watch this.
It'll probably be on YouTube or ABC's website
I'm
within
sure,
an hour after airing.
I'm sure it will be.
You can probably get a Handycam copy from Pirate.
Handycam copy. Sure. Are you guys pretty excited? In all honesty, like Star Wars Rogue One, I honestly, like, I was excited for Episode 7. Very excited for it. I'm excited for 8, but I think I'm more excited for Rogue One than I am for 8 because it goes back and revisits the story that I remember growing up with and watching and being so amazed with at a young age. It kind of dives back into that, right into the, not the middle, but you know what I'm saying, like into that that same storyline. I'm really pumped about this movie. I can't wait to see this one. I think it's going to be fantastic.
I'm with you. I'm like giddy when it comes to these things, man. Like Star Wars is like my favorite fucking thing. So, like you were talking before about watching pieces of movies, half an hour at a time, and the first thing that I thought of was like fuck, not even on DVDs. Like I'll be flipping channels and Spike or somebody will be showing Star Wars on TV, and like immediately it's just remote down. Like okay, I guess watch Star Wars
even
now.
Even if you're in the middle of something, you have to like, well, I know I'm going to have to leave here in 5 minutes and come back in 20. But
exactly.
Yeah, we'll just leave the TV playing. It'd be like somebody's watching.
Yep. Like, came in the middle of the Ewoks. Fuck it, still Star Wars. I'm watching.
God, I haven't seen Return of the Jedi in so long, and I don't know why. I have all 7 movies on Blu-ray, and I love. That's probably, that's right up there, top 3 for sure. I hate ranking Star Wars movies because it's so tough, but it's top 2 or 3, probably top 2. Man, that's I haven't seen it in, I bet.
It's like asking what's your least favorite way to get a blowjob.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Well done, sir. Well done. And Brian had a joke about that, but I didn't hear it.
What? No, I was gonna say, and you're the one that talks about my stupid comments.
No, I think
I follow that up.
That was a pretty goddamn good metaphor, acronym. I don't know. I'm not an English major. Something. Whatever. It was a pretty good
acronym. That was good.
Something.
It
was good. It was good at something. All right. Here's the point where we start treading into deeper waters. This is unavoidable.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Gonna need a bigger boat. Need a bigger paddle for this. Star Trek Beyond. There's been some big news. It's been on all of the, like, virtually every nerd-related website, whether it's about movies, comic books. everything, even just pop culture. Star Trek Beyond has announced that.
I'm actually surprised you started with this one. Not to interrupt you, but I really thought you were going to do this in a different order,
Yeah.
just so that you could make a point.
No, I think you'll see why.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see.
So
they announced that their character Sulu is now gay in Star Trek Beyond. Let's start with Topher. What are you? How? There's been a ton of before I just throw him under the bus.
Reeling you in.
Before I throw him under the bus, there have been a ton of different reactions, interviews about this, people's thoughts posted to just an absolute ton of different websites. Everybody from George Takei to what's his name? Henry Chan? No, I don't want to. What's his name?
Are you talking about the dude who plays him?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's Harold to me.
The actor that plays Sulu in the current version of Star Wars, his reaction. Spock from the new
John Cho.
I don't know why it's not Henry Cho.
His best friend Kumar.
Whatever. Anyway, there's been a ton of different opinions put out there, some on both sides of the fence about how they feel about this. So I think that this is worth a discussion. I think it's worth seeing where everybody lands. I think we probably know already where most of us on the podcast at least land, but I think it's good to have the conversation just to kind of experience each other's opinions, and who knows, maybe somebody becomes more open-minded or not. You never know. So Topher, with that being said, lead us off. What are your thoughts on them taking the character Sulu and now making him gay?
Lead us into temptation.
I thought it was great. When I heard it, I was like, that's really cool, because in the original series, they never really showed Sulu as having a relationship, so it's not like there was necessarily canon there that they were throwing away. And so it wasn't necessarily like a straight up change to the character. They were just filling in details where there were none before. And they're not trying to make a big deal out of it. It's not like a big major plot point in the movie, supposedly, and in the new one and beyond. And so it seemed really cool that they were just naturally going to make it fit into this story, that's part of who he is. And they're not going to make a big deal out of it because it's the 20-whateverth century, and Star Trek has always been big on civil rights and individual liberties. That why wouldn't it make sense for people in the future to be who they are and be comfortable with it? And I there's all these arguments that you can make about why people do this with certain properties, like why they want to make a character gay. And this one just seemed to fit so seamlessly. I thought it was perfect. And the fact that it was such a tribute to George Takei, who is, one of the, most outspoken and popular, LGBT activists right now. Like, he's just so freaking awesome, and everybody loves that dude. And I thought it was a really touching tribute to him. And I heard the story and it was heartwarming. I was like, that's fucking awesome. I love that they managed to do it in a way that didn't fuck with the source material, and and still paid tribute to the awesome actor who came before. I just felt like they did everything right this time, and I was like, man, this is fucking great. I love it when a plan comes together. And then
so I'll take it there. I'll take it from there. So everything you said, and then George Takei does not agree. He actually is not in favor of making Sulu a gay character, which probably at face value shocks a lot of people. Like you said, Star Trek has always been very on the cutting edge kind of equal rights. And this was a conversation apparently, and this is, I've just came not privy, but aware of this information because of this situation. In George Takei's interviews, he said that back in the 60s, I want to say it was the late 60s, he talked to the creator of Star Wars, or was it creator?
Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah. Talked to him about doing this exact thing. And there was a conversation that happened that led to the character not going that direction.
It wasn't about Sulu specifically being gay. He was just saying that, you know,
Right.
hey, you're such a big proponent of, you know, the civil rights and you know, race equality, you know, just out of curiosity, why not, you
Right.
know,
Exactly.
why not have a gay character?
Right. And that being said, they chose not to partially because of the times and the attitude at the times and things, not saying that that was right or wrong, because it was obviously a different time. There was a different temperament. There was different attitudes and things during that era.
Well, sorry, not to jump in.
It's fine.
But Roddenberry agreed with him and said that he would like to. It was just they were already on the verge of cancellation because, like, after they showed TV's first interracial kiss between Kirk and Uhura, there were a lot of network affiliates in the southern states that refused to air it, and they didn't show it, and so the ratings suffered really bad, and there were talks that they were going to cancel the show. And Gene Roddenberry basically said, you know, look, I would like to, but as much stuff as I'm doing already, there are already people gunning for me and to get rid of the show. Like, if we want to be able to make any statement, you know, we kind of have to play it cool for a little bit, because we're not going to have a show to have a voice here if we go all out right away.
Right. So here's where I have to probably part ways with Topher and disagree with some of the stuff that he said. So one of your focal points was the fact that it wasn't changing any canon. It wasn't changing the existence of the character, the history of the character as it was. It was just explaining things that never had happened. I have to disagree, not because of necessarily my personal experience. I've seen a good amount of Star Trek. I've always been a Star Trek fan. I grew up more with the Next Generation than I did with the original Star Trek, just because of when I was born. Had I been born earlier, probably would have been the regular Star Trek. That being said, I've seen a good amount of the old Star Trek. Not every episode by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even think I've seen all the movies. That being said, George Takei went into an interview about this, and probably in the same interview where we got a lot of the quotes that we just discussed, he said that he talked to what was John Cho? Is that what you said his name was?
Cho.
John Cho. I'm sorry. God damn, I'm coming off as a huge racist right now. I can't pronounce his last name for shit today. John Cho.
I mean, it is pretty long. It's tough.
It's all three letters. So he talked to John Cho and the producers of Star Trek over a year ago about this. Was when they were like starting to formulate that this was going to happen. And Takei let them know that he was against the idea, and he said instead of changing a character that the creator worked so hard on to create and form and manipulating his history, what they should do is, quote, be imaginative and create a character who has had a history of being gay, rather than Sulu, who had been straight all this time, suddenly being revealed as closeted.
Which I agree with, because, I mean, this is like, I don't know, does anybody know what year this is supposed to take place in? Star Trek? What is it, like 2035 or something like that?
I don't know. Topher, you think you can? It looks like he's searching it. So continue your thought process while he
But
looks that
like,
up.
this is so far advanced in the future. I mean, wouldn't it be like excellent if they just like went past all these boundaries and people don't have to sit in the closet anymore?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's the future. I mean, it's kind of like cheap that they're just like, oh, people still have to sit in the closet. People still have to
2260.
So
2260.
several
I
hundred
mean, it's
years
really
in the
far.
future.
Yeah. I mean, people still have to worry about race. I mean, don't you think it would just be, look better if they don't have to deal with that anymore? I mean, it's the future. They could do whatever they want.
And that's exactly kind of what I was, just to kind of piggyback off of what Brian was saying, is like, I don't disagree at all with the idea of having a gay character on Star Trek. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's great. I think that that's fantastic. But what I don't like, for two reasons. One is, like I've said many times in the past, is you're taking the easy road. You're just changing something to change it. You're not building a story around it. You're not telling us why. There's no creativity involved. You're taking the easiest possible solution, which is to say a character that's already gained popularity, that's already well known, that's been around for decades at this point. What, 40 years? 50, coming up on 50 years, right? Yeah, they're getting ready. I think it comes out on the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. So it's been around for essentially 5 decades, this character. And now, all of a sudden, as the climate changes in our current culture within really just America, for that matter, we decide, oh, by the way, this character has been in the closet for the last 49 years. He's actually gay. So, to me, that just feels like the easy answer. The easy way to explain it. That's not to say that there's a problem with him being gay. There is no problem with that. But wouldn't it make for much better story if you were to create and add in a character from some aspect of this movie that, like George Takei said, had a history of being gay? Maybe he comes from a different culture. Maybe he comes from whatever, however you want to explain it. But like Brian said, doesn't it make more sense that 200 plus years in the future, people don't have to be ashamed? They shouldn't be ashamed now of being gay. 200 years in the future, doesn't it make even more sense that they wouldn't be in the closet? To me, that makes more sense.
I agree with everything you just said.
Holy
Absolutely
shit.
Everything.
That's fucking remarkable.
Yeah. Where I differ is that, like, from your original premises, that argument makes 100% sense, and I completely agree. I was just operating from a different set of premises. You said, why say that he's been closeted all this time? I was not seeing it that way. To me, since the show itself, the original series, never dealt with Sulu's sexuality at all. They never showed him in a relationship.
I have to believe that they did at some point do something. Otherwise, George Takei would have never classified him as a straight man.
Well,
we have to believe, and even if you've seen every episode,
so
he was in them all.
I just want to hear him go,
George Takei here is in a unique position to be able to make that statement, because he and the creator, I'm sure, had many discussions about who the character is and what his motivations are. And, whenever, in acting all the time, the director, will tell the actor, like, here are your motivations in this scene. And a lot of that sometimes is extra information that's not actually part of the actual produced work. There will be behind the scenes information that goes into the character's portrayal. Here's your motivation. And like sets the scene by telling some personal story about that character
right.
that the audience never knows about. So it's perfectly fair to say that George Takei knows exactly who the character was and all that stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of that detail was made apparent in the series
right.
to viewers.
But at this point, being 4.5 decades later, I would imagine, as popular as Star Trek has become, with all of the Blu-ray releases, DVD releases, and things, with all the extra credits and interviews, I would have to imagine if he said that now, that was probably covered somewhere there.
And that very well may be, but the thing is, a lot of times stuff like that doesn't get covered. And the argument from the other side, the argument from the other side is that everyone assumes that things like that are covered because, like, when you meet somebody, you normally the default is to basically assume they're straight unless they tell you otherwise. Now, there are some people that, are very, very obviously openly, who they are, and it's easy to tell, that some people are gay, but there are a lot of people who are gay that you meet them and you don't know that they're gay, and the natural reaction is to believe that they are like you until they prove you otherwise, and so when you say, I think we would have heard by now, the fact is a lot of times you don't, and the argument from the other side is normally that you can't take things at your original expectations and that assumptions, because oftentimes assumptions don't take into account, like minorities. And so that's normally, the position from the other side. So I don't necessarily agree that it's fair to say that we would have heard something by now, if the character was different, but that's specifically a Star Trek argument. Broadening this to other cases of similar things, the argument is normally that, like, I would say that if the character's sexuality hasn't been established in that universe, then it's basically like Schrodinger's cat. It's until it's actually revealed to be one or the other, you can't just assume. You don't know if it's dead or alive. You don't know if he's gay or straight. If they never showed him in a relationship, it's not fair to say that, well, clearly he's straight because he never said he was gay. Well, why can't you say he's clearly gay because he never said he was straight? And it's because people's stereotypes and assumptions normally lead them to assume that they are the majority, when that downplays minority stances and opinions and positions.
I don't disagree with you on that front.
In this particular case, like, my first thought was, well, they've never said shit about Sulu's sexuality, so like this wasn't a question of him suddenly outing himself when he's been closeted all these years. It was saying they've never revealed it, and now we're peeking inside Schrodinger's box, and the cat happens to be gay.
I don't necessarily disagree with.
Clearly, George Takei knew better than the public, yes, what Gene Roddenberry's original vision of the character was, and he had information that I did not when I formed that opinion. And I'm definitely not going to tell George Takei that he's wrong about this, but it is a little surprising to me that that he would be against it. But
as well. I honestly, I'm surprised that George. I've spoke with him once in the past at a Comic-Con. That being said, you know what? I'm gonna try to reach out to him and see if we can't get him as a guest. No promises. This is reaching pretty far. He's a pretty tough guy to get a hold of, obviously. But I'm gonna see if I can't reach out to him and see if we can't have him on as a guest, on a guest spot in a future episode, just to kind of talk about it. I feel like he is well spoken, he's educated, he's a very smart man, and I feel like he's
gone where no man has gone before. Also,
he has boldly gone where no man has gone before. I think that he would. I think it would be good for all of us actually to talk to him and figure out where his what his motivations are, not motivations, but his reservations about this character and things like that, and kind of get his take on it, because I'm sure, like you said, he probably has just a boatload of experiences, of real world experiences, in dealing with the other cast and dealing with the writers and dealing with the creators and the producers and the directors and things like that, that led him to the point where he said what he said. And it would be really interesting to kind of get a peek behind the curtain, and see what that was.
Oh my.
Oh my. That being said, on to our next controversial topic for the week.
This is about spaghetti.
I've limited it to 2 this week. Iron Man is going to be a woman. Topher, I'm going to let you take this one.
Allegedly.
Because you brought this. Yeah, allegedly is going to be a girl. Teenage girl.
Oh, God.
A teenage
wasteland.
a teenage black girl. Yeah, supposedly that's the story. A teenage black girl will now be the person inside the suit, inside the Iron Man suit. This hasn't happened yet in the comics. It's supposedly going to be spinning out of Civil War II, so we don't know what leads up to it. I haven't been. I'm far from current right now, so I don't know exactly what's going on. But I mean, I don't necessarily have strong opinions about this one way or the other. I can pretty much predict that that Fox is going to say it's a gimmick and that it's change for the sake of change and they're fucking with the character, and that like, why, if we wanted a teenage female black character, why didn't we create a new role for her? And I'm sure he's going to mention the whole Zulu thing and tie it into this.
Surprised.
Really? Okay. But
before you guys argue, I think I should, not to cut Topher off, but we know what might happen. So Doug should have led with me, but continue, Chris.
Like I said, I don't necessarily have strong opinions on this one way or another, because to me, it's every comic book storyline. If it changes nothing, if it does nothing, is a boring story. So every story, every plot line that's ever happened in comics, the writers did because they thought it would be an interesting story to tell. So for me, it's always about, like, well, let's see if it's actually an interesting story or not, and not judging it based on, how it looks on the surface before it happens. So, I mean, if they manage, it sounds, my biggest, the biggest thing I could say about it is that it sounds kind of like a rehash of Superior Spider-Man, well, excuse me, no, actually, that applies more to the infamous Iron Man, which I have no idea if it's any relation to this new thing where Doctor Doom is Iron Man. I don't know. Yeah. But like, to me, it just seems like that might be a rehash of the Superior Spider-Man thing on that front. But I mean, Brian Michael Bendis with Ultimate Universe launched Miles Morales as another Spider-Man, 10 years ago, and people were all up in arms about how, like, why don't they just make a new character? But that character became something completely unique on his own, and now has a place in the mainstream Marvel universe, right alongside, Peter Parker. And I think it's worth giving things a shot and seeing, okay, is there a cool story here? Or maybe it's some sort of flash in the pan thing where it happens for a month and then they forget all about it. Like, I don't think we should treat it as some huge shakeup. It might not even be a good story, but it might not be a bad one either. So,
Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I read the book. I kind of know the background to this character already. And I read Civil War II, so I kind of have a theory on this whole thing. Why? I mean, so this I don't know the character's name, but this chick's background is she's basically, I don't know, 13, 14-year-old girl who's already in, like, a tech college, and she creates her own Iron Man suit, and you know she doesn't really finish it. And with going on in Civil War, War Machine's died. The whole thing that starts him off on a separate side is because of War Machine's death. So I think it's gonna be like it's gonna be the type of story where it's like when Tony Stark was an alcoholic and Rhodey took over the suit for a little bit. I think it's gonna kind of be like that, where he might give up because of his friend's death and stuff like that. And we all know it's not gonna last that long. I mean, it doesn't really affect me. I mean, I read Invincible Iron Man. Am I interested in it? No, because I hate when stories do this, because sometimes it's a big giant flop and people don't like the character. But whether she's going to be called Iron Man or not and fly, we've already seen the suit, and it looks kind of like Tony's suit right now, but a little bit different. But whatever. I mean, if writers are going to do what writers are going to do. They're going to do whatever they want. They're going to shake up some stuff to try to get people either interested, and some people don't like it. I mean, who the character is and what the character is doesn't really matter to me. If it's a good story, that's what matters to me. But I won't tell unless if it's a bad story, I'll stop picking up the book.
Yeah, I mean, Topher, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Without knowing the story of why they're doing it, and with a little bit that Brian has said, it kind of makes a little sense, I guess. I don't necessarily love it, but my biggest problem isn't that we have a black girl playing Iron Man. Well, my biggest problem isn't that we're changing from Tony Stark to another character. My biggest problem is that we have a girl playing Iron Man. The name of the character is Iron Man.
I mean, we still don't know if she's going to use
that
name.
She's a man. Well, if it's going to be an Iron Man book, Tony Stark's
character's going to be an Iron Man, that's all we know in that book.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't make sense. Like, okay, you changed Thor to a girl. Like, all right, well, Thor is not. It's not really it's pretty gender ambiguous name, like title, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but Iron Man definitely implies man for sure. I don't. Why would you do? I don't understand why you would do this. I just don't. I don't. To me, it just doesn't. It doesn't. I don't know. If it's a short-lived thing, okay, I get it. It's just a small fill-in thing for 2 months or whatever. Like, cool. That makes it like, that I get it. She was filling in and didn't want anyone to know that Iron Man was missing or whatever. Like that, I could see. But if this becomes any kind of long-term 6-month or a year thing, like, I don't see it. I'm sorry. I just don't. I think it's stupid as fuck. I don't know why.
We don't know that she goes by the name of Iron Man.
Why is she in the Iron Man book? Like, why would?
And they will probably keep the title of the book Iron Man just because it's the suited superheroes book. And that happens to be his name.
Really,
it is kind of awkward. What?
Yeah. Plus, they're not going to put her in a whole new book if she's like a limited character to that title.
Like I'm saying, the book's not named Tony Stark. It's named Iron Man because that's the suited. For a long time, people didn't even know who was in the suit. It was just the suit of that was Iron Man. The hero's name was Iron Man. So they're probably going to keep the book named Iron Man because that's the character, that's the hero storyline that this is a part of. I mean, maybe they do rename it. I don't know.
I mean,
Like, but yeah,
it's
it is.
pretty annoying if they renamed
know.
it. Back in the early 2000s, you know, when Hulk invaded Earth, you know, the name of the book, The Incredible Hulk, wasn't the Hulk. It was Hercules, and then they changed it to the book title to Incredible Hercules for a little bit, but it kept on going with the same number as the Incredible Hulk, to continue with that number, and it was kind of fucking annoying. So, you know, keep it Iron Man. You know, she's not gonna be the main title character for that long, and Tony Stark's gonna come back. Don't keep on changing the title name and ending Iron Man, and then bringing Iron Man back, the title back, because Tony comes back. Don't do that. Just, you know, she's a character that started out in Iron Man. She might be taking the suit for a little bit. Keep it the same book title. Don't start all this confusing renamings and stuff like that, because that goes back to what we were talking about, all the number ones and shit like that.
Well, they're going to do that anyway.
Well, yeah, they probably will.
Yeah, I don't know.
If the character's popular, she'll probably end up getting a spin-off.
Yeah.
Called the Incredible Funk Dactylsaurus Man.
Right.
Iron things.
So
Platinum.
recently, within the last couple of days, I think, there's been a release of a new video game called Pokemon Go. It's been pretty goddamn popular, to the point where they had to actually delay their international release because of the popularity of...
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there you go.
I've been doing it the whole time.
Yeah, I have it on my phone as well. I don't have my phone right here in front of me. But the game seems pretty neat, but also incredibly dangerous.
No.
Right.
Brian, you want to share the story you shared with me earlier?
Yeah, so...
Or a version thereof?
It popped up on Facebook last night. I was reading it. Some girl in, I don't know what the state was going around like a wooded forest area searching for Pokemon, because, you know, some different areas have different type Pokemons. She happened to stumble across a dead body and called the cops, and it was near a river. She was looking for a fresh water source for water type Pokemon, and she happened to stumble across the body. She called the cops. Cops came, took the body. They did an autopsy, and found out, you know, the body had died of natural causes, probably drowned alone in the woods, something. And it's just like, you know, all these things are happening because these people, you know, the game's called Pokemon Go. It makes you have to move around to find these Pokemon, and like it's like the best and worst game ever, just because, like, you know, people are going to be scattering to all these places to find Pokemon. And, you know, I work in like an area where there's all warehouses and stuff like that down this road, and a lot of these Pokemon are behind these warehouses and stuff like that. So if I would have gone to search for them, I'd have to go onto this other property and walk around it to look for where these Pokemon are sitting. I mean, but it's pretty fun. I mean, like, last night I ran down the block.
Were, like, popped up like on the freeway or something?
Yeah, I mean, where my mother lives, like maybe 200 feet, 300 feet, maybe a little bit more. You know, two like neighborhood blocks over is a parkway, and some of the Pokemon that I had found were lining the grassy area on that parkway. I mean, you know, people, like, where these Pokemon could pop up anywhere, and people are gonna go to like great lengths to like grab some of these.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there was one story where it's really interesting. There was one story where this guy's like in the ER operating room, you know, his wife's giving birth, and he's sitting there catching Pokemon.
That one was great. I just love all the memes that are coming out of it, because like when you go to actually catch the Pokemon, like it brings up like this augmented reality screen. It actually uses your camera, and so you're holding it out and you're seeing like the Pokemon superimposed on a view of real life. And so it leads to all these hilarious images of people finding like a Pokemon kind of sitting there hunched down, and he happens to be sitting on the the toilet seat in somebody's house. There's another one where there's like this rat Pokemon staring angrily up at you, and the dude's got like a gun pointed at it, like get the fuck out of my house. Like there's been some really hilarious like memes from it, but
this one I saw is a guy, he's laying down playing the game, and there's a what's the thing that's coming out of the ground? A Diglett or something like that, but it's like coming out of his pants, so it's like his coming out, it's like his dick.
Wow.
There's been some interesting ones. My biggest problem with the game so far is just that it never fucking works for me.
Yeah, that's why they delayed
goddamn
it.
busy
Servers.
98% of the time, and when I can get in, it stays connected for a little bit up until I get up to a Pokemon, and then the servers take a shit, and it just disappears and leaves me hanging.
Or it freezes your phone. That's what I have trouble with.
The other annoying thing is like when you're tracking one, you have to have GPS on all the time and your phone screen on the map. Like if you put it to sleep and just put it in your pocket or something, the game stops doing anything. It has to be out and on for it to be doing anything, which kills your battery so fucking fast.
Battery, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how this game develops, but I think it's a really neat concept. But
It's
I think
still a really cool concept.
It has
and
some definite negatives, but we'll have to see how it goes. That's about it for this episode. I'm Fox 2. We got Topher.
I'm actually really proud of Fox for not doing what I thought he was going to do today and start with the Iron Man story, get my opinion, and then use the whole George Takei Sully reaction to throw it in my face and tell me that I was wrong about everything.
You'll have that from time to time, every once in a while.
Yeah.
The whole effing Brian.
Yeah, I want to be the very best.